I
So
did get that one.
you're prepared then.
Trying.
Okay.
All right. So very good
Hamida,
afternoon.
how are you?
I'm okay, dear. How are you? Hope you're well.
Yes, I think we have we started?
Yeah, we do have participants on, and I think we should start given that our time frame is quite brief. I'm sure we'll be joined by many more as the session progresses. But a very good afternoon to you, friends, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from across East Africa. It's a wonderful honor to be here with us all this afternoon, especially against the backdrop for which this webinar is convened, and that's the recent ESC Heads of Summit that happened right here in Arusha, Tanzania. And this afternoon, we want to discuss these summit decisions, in action, from the resolutions to practical trade gains, sustainable financing, and judicial enforcement in the ESC. So it goes without say, friends, that we are currently at a defining moment for regional integration. Just a few days ago, the 25th Ordinary Summit of the ESA Heads of State concluded here in Arusha. And to be precise, that was on the 7th of March, 2026. So that summit, it brought more than, issuing of declarations. It delivered what I would term as structured, time-bound, implementation-driven decisions that should shape the legal and economic architecture of our region. And just to mention a few of them, we saw a declaration on a re-engineered 50-50 sustainable financing model for the community, a firm deadline of June 30th, 2026 for the elimination of non-tariff barriers, the launch of the ESC Customs Bond to transform trade facilitation, accelerated integration pathways for partner states joining the community, and a strengthened judicial arrangement within the East Africa Court of Justice. Now, some of these declarations were not just policy statements that are meant to be kept in the archives. They should act as operational instructions for implementation with legal, institutional, and economic consequences. And so now that begs the real question that is before us this afternoon is how do we move from summit decisions to a lived reality? Because integration is not completed in summit halls, like we all know. It's completed in the laws that are domestic, regulations that are enforced, and borders that function efficiently, and courts that uphold accountability. And so this conversation here will begin today. And to guide us through this conversation is a very good friend and mentor, a colleague, and my senior, Mr. Evans Ogada, a very respected advocate and a leading voice in constitutional and administrative law in the region. His work in public interest litigation, judicial accountability, and constitutional governance reflects a deep commitment to the rule of law and institutional integrity, making him an ideal place to steer this afternoon's discussion. So, Mwalimu, it's a profound honor to have you with us. We're exceedingly humbled to have you this afternoon, and I would like to now hand this over to you to take us through in the next 53 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Always good to work with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We welcome you to yet another invigorating, as is expected, conversation about the future, the decisions made on behalf of the Jumuiya. We are honored to have with us a panel of three, and joining us today is first and foremost His Worship Euphenalis Okubo. Mheshimiwa Okubo is a former registrar of the East African Court of Justice. I'm praying for you, well. You'll join the ICJ of the East African Court of Justice.
Yes.
Known practitioner in the area of mediation and arbitration, and of course, an East African. Mheshimiwa, karibu, and say hi to the audience.
Thank you very much, Ogada, Prof. It's always a pleasure for me to jump anytime I'm called into anything discussing EAC. I'm so passionate about it, and I'll always create time about it. I was just telling Gabriel, I left Nairobi this morning at 7, and right now I'm on the border of Kenya and Uganda. And I had to rush because I didn't want to miss this. So here I am. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa. We are always indebted to your time and your contributions to the region. Next, we are joined by Ms. Mabel Kisaka. Ms. Kisaka is a practicing lawyer from Uganda. She is also the chairperson of the East Africa Law Society International Trade and Regional Integration Committee. Ms. Kisaka, karibu, say jambo. Ms. Kisaka, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Have I unmuted? Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Jambo, everyone. I am happy to be here. Thank you, Evans, for coordinating this, and I can't wait to get started.
Asante sana. Finally, we have Ms. Nagadia Hamida. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Noble Education Law and Research Hub, and she is based in Kampala. Ms. Hamida, I believe I got that right. Welcome and say hi to us. Ms. Hamida. She appears muted. Oh, Ms. Hamida? Okay, as we wait for Ms. Hamida to resolve the technical hit, we will probably start with our first question to Ms. Kisaka. Ms. Kisaka, how effectively have the key decisions from the recent EAC summit in Arusha been translated into actionable policies and programs within member states? You are muted.
Thank you very much. So the 25th Ordinary Summit of the EAC Heads of State was held last month. I was going to say this month, but it's 1st of April. And it marked a decisive shift from policy formulation and I think they were looking at result-oriented regional integration. And I heard from someone who attended, I'm not sure how true it is, the presidents were very keen on ensuring that what is discussed at summit level is implemented by the Council of Ministers, by the ministers, because they felt like sometimes things are changed along the way. And here they were really keen on implementation on whatever is discussed. And like Ochaya said, there was an emphasis on enforceability, financing, and but how do we translate this into actionable policies and programs? Yeah, so I think, and this can only happen if there is some sort of national level implementation, which has been progressive but uneven. I can say national implementation has been progressive, but when you look at the EAC, it has been uneven across partner states. So so for me, in terms of areas for strong immediate translation, if we are to look at actionable translation would be, so when you look at the EAC customs bond, the rollout is already, I think, operational in countries such as Uganda and Kenya. I think they intend to roll it out this year. And then, and this reflects rapid domestication and administrative execution, which would help reduce transit costs and duplicative guarantees. And of course, now here we're looking at the single customs territory and ensuring that the single customs territory is more efficient. And I think that would be very key. But as you can see, even while these reforms are being done and are being rolled out at various member states, you'll find that Kenya will be on board, Uganda will be on board, Tanzania will be on board, Rwanda, but then the EAC is bigger than that. The EAC has 8 member states. And then, and with this trade facilitation reforms, how actionable would be continued deployment of electronic single window systems, which are currently in place, one-stop border posts. And here, I feel like at this stage of the EAC, we need to get everyone on board. For example, if you look at the one-stop border posts of Uganda and South Sudan, in Uganda, it's electronic. And then when you cross over, you have to have documents. So because in South Sudan is not yet electronic. So yes, whereas right now we see incremental but untangible implementation progress, there is need to still ensure that all the countries are on board and eliminate the NTBs that still affect cross-border trade. And then institutional financing reform, where they adopted the financing formula of the 50-50 model with a fixed implementation date. I think the implementation date is July 2026. Yeah, I think that is good because it demonstrates a binding self-executing decision, which would automatically limit the scope for delay in terms of financing. And then I wanted to discuss areas of uneven implementation or partial implementation in terms of structural and political implementation constraints. When you look at the NTB elimination deadline, yes, we have administrative barriers that have been created over time, because NTB is something that we've talked about over and over again. We've talked about the persistent barriers, and these include regulatory divergence, licensing requirements that are hidden NTBs, and inconsistent application of rules of origin. And I feel like this should be very key in terms of what should be done during this season, to ensure that implementation is not systemic in terms of putting up NTB monitoring committee. I feel like we do a lot of systemic solutions. We need to do more practical and more substantive solutions that where we monitor progress and know that, okay, yes, we set up these monitoring committees. What have they done? Why do we have the rice issue every year? Why do we deal with the rice issue? Then there's the milk issue. Every year we have to deal with it. Yes. So why do we have to deal with that? So yeah. So I think, I don't know that I've run out of time, but yeah.
We will come back to the question of milk.
Those are my thoughts so far. I feel like there's more that needs to be done apart from these having these summits and having these nice deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The milk issue is usually a thorny one, particularly between Kenya and Uganda. Your Worship, we come to you.
Yes.
As an elder statesman, we want to hear from you in terms of your keynote, and probably we will ask subsequent questions thereafter. Over to you, opening pitch. What do we need to do in terms of making practical the resolutions from the EAC? Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this last summit, I can say it is one of the produced one of the most progressive communiques. Whether it will translate into action or not, that is a different thing. So look at that communique as having thumbs up and thumbs down at the same time. Talking about equal contribution and the assessed contribution, this is something we have said for a very, very long time. The economies of East African community partner states are not the same. So when you tell them to pay equally, you are very, very likely to run into problems, as we have seen. And that's why we have some persistent defaulters, because the economies are not the same. But they are now, that decision seems to be moving in the right direction. What I kept reminding partner states is that they don't only belong in East African Community. Most of them belong in IGAD. In IGAD, are the contributions equal? No. Most of them belong to COMESA. In COMESA, are the contributions equal? No. So they are now moving towards that direction. Now, one positive thing about this communique is that it gave some deadlines, timelines, like, for example, the issues of NTBs. Although that timeline, to me, I doubt if it is realistic, 30th June 2026. Go back to 10 or 15 previous communiques. The issue of NTBs has been a persistent common agenda. Then they meet in March and they say they are giving you 3 months to resolve what has been persistent all through. Really? But I've also argued that the way they are handling the resolution of NTBs is wrong. You cannot resolve NTBs through boardrooms. The issue of milk and the eggs between Kenya and Uganda. How many times does this problem recur? Ministers go sit together. They say they have resolved. Goods starts moving. By the time the minister from Kenya lands in Nairobi, it has been reversed again. Simply because those decisions have got no coercive powers. And I've always argued that somebody needs to go to court to stop a country from doing something which is an NTB. Say this should not be applied because it is an NTB. Now, once a court issues a court order like that, that one has a coercive power. Even the trade remedies committees under the Common Market Protocol and the Customs Union, although the committees have not been set, assuming they were in place, they don't have coercive powers. It will be the same thing, people sitting in boardrooms deciding, oh, let's do this, let's do this. Then they implement for 1 week, then they go back to square one. But if you have a court order saying doing this is an NTB, it's not allowed under the trade agreements we have, it's not allowed under the Customs Management Act, then countries will comply. However, having given that deadline, let's wait and see how far it will go. There was also the issue of sanctions, something we have talked very many times. If I know I belong to a club, and if I go against the rules of that club, there's no sanctions, what will stop me? I will continue. And we kept saying these partner states are not taking EAC seriously sometimes. Partner states are violating the treaties every time they feel like, because they know there are no consequences. Now at least they are moving forward to say at least the schedule of sanctions should be completed, taking into account also these new financing formula, so that if you are in arrears, there'll be sanctions. If you have not paid by a certain time, there'll be sanctions. I remember one time in a COMESA summit, Burundi was in arrears and it was under sanctions. So Burundi candidate was supposed to be appointed. And they openly told that Burundi that we will not appoint your candidate to this position because you are in arrears, you are in sanctions. That has never happened in EAC. You come there, you don't pay, you are in arrears of as long, and you benefit like any other person, putting a strain to other partner states who are struggling to pay and keep the community afloat. Now, there was also directives like RSS to conclude domestication of the treaty. A very sad situation. It has been a member for how many years now? 9 or 10. And you have not completed domestication of the treaty. So are you really committed to the community? If you are really committed, surely 3 years to me were enough. But now all this period, about 10 years, it shows something about how serious they are, the community. And this is where, again, somebody should have moved to court and say a country that has stayed this long without domesticating should not, if anything, be a member. Right, okay, the court cannot expel a member, but at least maybe it can give an opinion to the summit that this is what we feel. We cannot have members who are not committed. They are just there. Even domesticating the community laws like the treaty, they are not doing it. I recall there's a time, I'm not sure if that case was resolved. Emily went to court about contributions, saying this country should be cited. I'm not sure whether that case was concluded or not. But also looking at a judge sitting there, earning from the community to declare that his country has violated the treaty because it's not paying, yet he is earning. That's the way I'm looking at it. It may be very difficult for our judges to do that because they are paid in as much as they know. In as much as they've also been declaring a partner states violating the treaty, making all those declaratory orders on other matters. But when it comes to this, I find there may be a bit of a problem there. Same to RSS and Somalia to fast track the domestication. I mean, DRC and Somalia to fast track domestication of the treaty. Note that there were no timelines there in that decision. And these are countries that right now, they are facing a lot of political problems, internal political problems. In the next 1 month or 2 months, I'm not sure if the Somali president will still be there. You know, his term is supposed to be coming at one end in May. He purported to come up with a new constitution. Everybody fighting that process. There is even a matter filing ESG challenging that constitution. So we really don't know if he'll be there. Now you are giving these countries that have their own internal problems to sort out first, telling them, look, we have to domesticate the treaty. Though there are no timelines. Is that a priority to them? I doubt if that will happen. The 2/3 quorum, that is important. Again, this is something we kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I kept asking them, tell me where else, which other organization says quorum is 100%, that everybody must be there. When ESC initially started with 3 members, it was very easy. If you have a council of ministers, you required 6 people, 3 ministers, 3 PSs, maybe 9, 3 senior officials, and you can go ahead and meet. But now when the community expanded the way it has expanded, then you're still saying you need a quorum of 100%. That was highly unrealistic. Fine, that was done. It is good, and I hope it is going to be respected and run across. Even this appointment to the head, the 3 organs to come from partner states who have fully implemented the treaty, that is very important. Because you cannot want to lead an organ or an institution like ESC when your own country is not committed to it. How will you run it? And that should run across. That argument should run across even when it comes to benefits arising from the community. Because if I'm not committed, why should I benefit the same way with somebody else who is committed? Or if I'm committed, why is somebody who is not committed to me benefit the same way I'm committed? So I foresee a lot of cases coming up. This is an opportunity for lawyers and the responsibility to them take up these issues that are going to come out of these summit decisions so that they can come to court and the court can also have a chance to an opportunity to look at it. Now we have 8 judges. I see no reason why we cannot have 2 chambers sitting at the same time, because the treaty or the rules do not say that judges must sit 5 of them. It actually says a full bench is 5, but 3 judges can sit. Now that we have 8, with the high number of pending cases at ESCJ, we should have 3 judges sitting to try and bring down the pending matters as soon as possible. That will also give confidence to the courts. It will make people get attracted to going to the court than the current situation where they have to sit 5. Then we have so many matters pending, especially with the funding challenges we have had, where we have seen the court not sitting for a very, very long time. Moving forward, Chair, I don't know if I can continue or you'll come back to me later.
We will come back to you later. Thank you very much for the opening pitch. Thank you very much. I think Ms. Hamida is back. Hamida? Is Hamida here? Hamida? I saw her a few minutes ago. Hamida? Okay, as we wait for Hamida, did I hear her speak? Okay.
No, I think maybe she has a technological issue.
Looks like it. Let's go to you, Kisaka. Your next question will be, what strategies are in place or should be put in place to ensure compliance and enforcement of ESC summit decisions across member states, and how effective are these mechanisms, or should these mechanisms be? Over to you, Ms. Kisaka.
Thank you very much. For me, just like His Worship has said clearly, is this summit put in place, they tried to put in place some of those strategies in place. And one of them, I think, is the conditional financial incentive. And I think they also did the one-off 50% area waiver, which is contingent upon a partner state clearing the remaining balance within 2 years. So if a partner state had areas, all they had to do is pay 50% within the 2 years, and I think that approach is good. And it's flexible, and it's likely to encourage at least compliance. And by the time they came up with that strategy, it means there are very many member states that were in areas. So, and then also the summit issued binding implementation directives, such as the new financing formula, and then and also the issue of reducing the consensus-based decision making, and I think your worship Okubo has highlighted on that in detail. And then what we saw, and again I will re-echo this, was establishment of strict timelines and deadlines. They established a timeline and a deadline for NTBs. Yes, we are not sure whether we are not yet sure whether by June 2026 we shall have no NTBs, or we shall have all the NTBs resolved. But we know that if they are not resolved, we can base on that to take on to do further action. So we have something to base on to even go to the court. And I think for this, it would enhance accountability. The timelines, there were no timelines for some of the countries to domesticate, and that is sad. I wish there were also timelines, because you either want to be in the community or not. Then and then, whereas our compliance is supported through an institutional monitoring framework with oversight from the Council of Ministers, and there's the Legislative Assembly supported by the EAC at the Secretariat. I don't know whether the EAC is sufficiently staffed to be able to enforce and ensure that whatever the summit delivered, they can enforce and ensure that member states comply, that member states are able to pay up, and even with the regulations that are set at the ESC level, to ensure that what they are discussing in terms of regulations is being enforced. And to be honest, I believe that the ESC has not done bad. I feel like the ESC improves every year, and I am very proud of the ESC, because even with us seeing this, these directives, I feel like that is a step to the right direction. I can give an example in terms of the strategies and all policies the ESC has passed. The ESC passed what they call the e-commerce strategy, and it passed the e-commerce strategy in 2022. And within the e-commerce strategy, they made a provision to have e-commerce engagement platforms in each and every member state. I was so happy to find that they have gone ahead and created, after 2022, they've gone ahead, each country has an e-commerce engagement platform. Each country is doing, right now they are doing some sort of tool to, they've developed some sort of tool at the ESC for each member country to be able to monitor digital or e-commerce trade within that country, so that they can be able to get the gaps, they can be able to get the constraints that can be resolved by the ESC. So I am happy that, whereas it's not all perfect and rosy, we are moving to the right direction. There are giving us their word, and they're trying to do, taking steps to implement. And if they continue, I think if we continue with this pace that has been set, the ESC will be a much better community to trade in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We welcome those who are joining us. If you have any questions, please post them on the chat function. We will spare some time to attend to any emergent questions. And those who are listening in, I know we've had a lot of acronyms being sent out there by the panelists. We've heard of NTB. NTB means non-tariff barrier. And then we have RSS, Republic of South Sudan. So follow us. Let's not lose you. His Worship, Mheshimiwa Kubo, we now ask you the substantive question. How can the EAC enhance, innovate, and contribute to sustainable financing mechanisms that will support infrastructure, social development, and regional integration objectives? How can we better finance infrastructure, social development, and regional integration objectives? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I think first the EAC needs to strengthen its regional development financial institutions. We have EADB. That's an institution of EAC. Can we capitalize and expand its mandate? Even the bank as it is, not all EAC partner states are members of that bank. I think there are only 4 countries that have joined that bank. So we should strengthen our own bank so that we can benefit from its funding. Secondly, we need to establish an EAC infrastructure fund. I see every country coming up with its own infrastructure fund, which then looks like a competition. Yet we want regional projects. Why don't we have an EAC infrastructure fund to pool resources, then co-finance cross-border projects? We also, I think, need to leverage on the Trade and Development Bank, which is formerly PTA Bank, considering that almost all members of EAC are at the same time members of COMESA. Another point I look at maybe is enhancing domestic resource mobilization. Can we look at tax reforms, broaden tax base, but again, reduce the leakage through digitization? Can we look at combating illicit financial flows? This will strengthen regional cooperation on tax evasion and transfer pricing. Then what we call user pay models, introducing a toll on our roads, utility tariff, and some service fees that are not NTPs. And I think it would be important to consider aligning financing the regional integration priorities with which will ensure support to shared EAC goals. Like we prioritize cross-border infrastructure. Recently, we saw Kenya and Uganda coming up together to try and link up the SGR that got stuck somewhere in past Naivasha. Now it's going to come to Kisumu, go up to the border. Those are the small things, low-hanging fruits that make the mwananchi of citizen realize there is actually integration. Then we must also get funds to support the implementation of the common market protocol. Actually, EAC is not short of protocols. And integration is not felt by number of protocols and communiques you issue or agreements you sign. No, there are some other things on the ground that once they are done, then the integration will be filled. Now you must link all this again with peace, stability, and cohesion. This is critical for any investment confidence. If I tell you right now, Prof, you have money, go and invest in Somalia, will you go? Or go and invest in DRC, you won't go because there's no peace and stability there. So this must come first before all these other things kind of flow in. Then we also need to look at fostering partnership beyond the government. Why can't we mobilize broader ecosystems, engage private sector, institutional investor, and civil society? We can also partner with the global climate funds and philanthropic capital. These are funds which you can easily tap in, so long as we are organized ourselves and we know how to access them. Then, of course, with all that, we must encourage universities and innovations hubs to design financing solutions. We cannot sit as the ESC and come up with some of these things. We need some universities to lead us. And I think we also need a coherent financing strategy. Yes, they have said they come up with some, all they did was to give directives about alternative financing, but now we need the strategy. How do we get it? We need a regional financing strategy tied to maybe Vision 2050 and the development priorities, which will give clear project pipelines with investment-ready profits. That can make the community move. Bottom line, what I'm saying is that the success lies in shifting from aid dependency to investment-driven growth, using a regional integration as a scale advantage, domestic capital as a foundation, innovation as a catalyst, and governance as a guarantee. If we can do that, I think our finances for the regional projects can really move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I think Hamida is back. Miss Hamida, good evening. Good afternoon, rather.
Good afternoon too.
I think the network is now okay.
Yes, it's okay. I'm sorry for that hiccup.
Thank you. So perhaps you will just say hello and probably answer for us this question. What tangible benefits have the ESC members realized so far from summit resolutions, and what challenges remain in leveraging the ESC as a single market? So welcome and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Allow me to lead with a question. I also prepared some slides for members to be following as I'm presenting as well. So one of the tangible benefits in as far as the East African Community Summit resolution is concerned, the most important one is the growth of the intra-regional trade. When you look at the East African Community statistics that are established on the website, you can see that the intra-regional trade has increased by 27%. That is from 14.2 billion to 18 billion. And of course, we cannot also overlook the East African community, the significances and benefits that have come also from the East African Community Single Customs Territory that have also reduced on the business transaction costs by 70%. And also the one-stop border post has also reduced the transit time by 72%. When you look at the trade facilitation policies that have been put into place, they have also eased cross-border trade, and also not forgetting the harmonized standards that, as per website of the East African Community, about 1,918 so far have been harmonized by the East African Community. However, we still have some hiccups here and there. And of course, the elimination of non-tariff barriers. When we look at the East African Community, the platform, the online platform for non-tariff barriers that is shared by the East African Community and SADC plus COMESA, it shows some of the non-tariff barriers that are still recurrent. And the most important one is the infrastructure that is at 8.5. The road user charges that are at 8.7, the government policy and regulations, hiccups that are 8.1, corruption that is at 7.3, arbitrariness that is at 7.1, the complex variety of documentation procedures. Despite all that, still we have some changes that and some barriers. Not forgetting that also the common external tariff which has harmonized, especially on goods that are coming from
Ms. Hamida, are you here, Ms. Hamida? Am I audible? Your Worship, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I think we lost Ms. Hamida again. Is she here? Hamida appears to be experiencing challenges. I don't know if we have any questions in the chat platform. No. Miss Hamida, are you back? Hamida? Okay, maybe as we wait for Miss Hamida to revert to us, Your Worship, we will probably come to you on looking forward. All right. Your Worship, looking
Yes.
forward, what priority areas should the EAC focus on to accelerate the implementation of summit decisions and achieve measurable integration? What moves can be made to ensure that we implement the decisions of the summit?
I think looking forward, I think EAC needs to concentrate on a few high impact, execution driven priority areas. We need to shift from commitments to compliance. That is enforcement and accountability. And as I said, the gap in EAC is not policy design. The policies are there. The problem is implementation. So can we establish a binding compliance scorecard, maybe for the summit or for the ministers, which can enable us follow up what is happening in the region? And then we need to strengthen institutions like the courts, not just adding judges. Can we expand their jurisdiction other than just interpretation and application of the treaty? That wider jurisdiction, although it's difficult, it will be very difficult, might help also pushing some of these things. And I remember one time when we were discussing about this jurisdiction, we were saying, let us not touch it. Because we open it up, it might even be reduced. It's an egg and chicken issue, a very touchy issue. Then we might need also to introduce something like peer review and a sanction incentive mechanism on non-compliant, so that those who are complying, there's some incentive. Those who are not complying, they are having sanction. The message here is what? The message is the integration must move from political goodwill to legal obligation. Then I think we need to fast track removal of NTBs, which I said earlier on. We need, maybe can we have a situation where it is the private sector that triggers the enforcement of NTBs? Private sector, not the partner states.
Your Worship, I hear somebody is interrupting. I don't know who can help us with this. I think you can continue, sir.
Yeah, okay. I was saying, let private sectors be the one to enforce the issue of NTBs. It is the private sector who trade, not really the government. And can we also link NTBs removal to performance contract of partner states, so that a partner state that has removed a lot of NTBs gets a higher scorecard than one that has not? It is sort of an incentive. Of course, what you'll have there is that you'll see visible gains in intra-EAC trade, which can very easily be recognized and promote more development. Another thing I think is to leave a flagship cross-border infrastructure. Focus just on a few transformative bankable regional projects. Prioritizing transport corridors, we saw the issue of the rail, which I talked about yesterday, ports and roads. Why not go back to what you used to have before? Now we are having Mombasa, Dar es Salaam competing. What if these were all under one? They're like institutions of the whole community, East African ports and harbors. Instead of every port wanting to compete against each other, the impact may not be that much. Unlike if it was all under one umbrella.
Yes.
And then you use some coordinated financing with partners like the African Development Bank, especially when it comes to matters of infrastructure. I think ADB has been very good on such things, so that integration is not just supposed to be seen; it needs to be felt. And where do you feel it? Through this infrastructure project, because there are things you can see. You can see the rails. You can know you can see the interconnectivity in power. When somebody is telling you we are integrated in infrastructure, you should be able to see it through such type of projects. Then you can also look at deepening the common market in practice. Deepen common market in practice. The framework exists, but practical barriers still persist. Look at issues of mutual recognition for professional qualifications. It is still a problem today. Remove administrative barriers for labor mobility, a big, big problem. Just labor mobility moving from one country to another one, and the right of establishment. Yet we are saying we are integrating. So we must fully operationalize the common market protocol, which will show that the EAC is actually a functioning regional labor and service and the service market. We could also look at reforms now within the EAC itself, the organs. Can we enhance the mandate, funding and autonomy of the community, East African community? Can we reduce the duplications between the EAC institutions and the national institutions? Can we also introduce maybe result-based management system across EAC organs, all organs? At some point, there was an attempt to have that type of system. I don't know if it ever went through and if it is working. And then you might also look at, I talked about peace, security, and political cohesion. Can we strengthen joint mechanism for conflict prevention and mediation? We have seen that even where our own partner states quarrel, they don't use a mechanism within the EAC. We saw others going to South Africa. They leave the mechanisms in EAC. What are you saying? That you have no confidence in our own institutions? Why don't you strengthen them, those mechanisms, so that they can resolve your problems? Can you also address cross-border insecurity, particularly where trade corridors are affected? Because that is where one area where integration is felt. And then align political commitment with economic integration goals. That will do good for us. Lastly, I think maybe I'll talk about citizen-centered integration. That is legitimacy and ownership. Integration, as I said, must be felt by citizens, not just by the government. It is more integration, it is the citizens who integrate more than the government. So can we improve awareness of EAC rights and opportunities to the citizens of the community? Can we expand access to cross-border services, health, education, and finance, instead of having these borders stopping us from enjoying certain things? Then let's engage civil society and private sector in implementation. I think they can be a very good partners when you want to move forward as far as all these council summit decisions are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Very valuable contributions in terms of what do we need to do to change the lot of the East Africa community insofar as summit resolutions are concerned. Ms. Hamida, you're back. I hope your connection is better now.
Yes, I'm back. I think my connection is better.
Okay. Just I don't know if for purposes of the bandwidth, probably you can even do without the sharing. Just proceed to finish with your first question as we prepare the second question for you. Are you with us, Ms. Hamida?
I was still talking about some of the impacts of the East African EAC Summit, where I said that about 1,000.
We are not lucky. Are you able to
Okay,
go back to the projecting? Yes.
Hamida, just stop sharing and try to maybe use the audio only so that
Yes.
you're more visible, because we are running out of time,
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. So I was still talking about the implication of the EAC summit resolutions, and what so far we have benefited out of it is that I stated earlier that the intra-regional East African trade has increased by 27%. That is from 14.2 billion to 18 billion, and also with other countries, it has grown to 22%. We have also seen that there's a EAC single customs territory where we have benefited from the unified customs clearance, and that in itself has reduced on the business cost, transaction cost by 70%. We also have one-stop border post that we have benefited and it has reduced the transit time from to 72%. Elimination of non-tariff barriers. Where when you look at the website of the COMESA and SADC, we have seen that some of the non-tariff barriers have reduced, and however, we still have a lot that's still existing, especially the border taxes, the arbitrariness, which is at 7.1, the corruption, which is at 7.3, the complex variety of documentation, which is at 7.7, the inadequate trade-related infrastructure, which is at 7.9, among others. We have also benefited from the common custom tariffs. That is the 4-band tariff system, the one of 0%, where that is about raw materials and capital goods. We have that 10%, 25%, and 35%. We have also benefited from the digital customs integration, which have reduced, which has also brought about the aspect of real-time cargo tracking. And with this, we have also benefited that the time for clearance have reduced from 21 days that was earlier on, and now we have moved on to at least less than 4 days. Of course, not forgetting the simplified procedures that have also enabled trade, especially for small, medium enterprises. In respect to that, not forgetting also we have the East African investment policy, and this investment policy has also promoted investment within the East African region. It has attracted because there are also tax incentives entailed with that. There's also improvement in terms of infrastructure. For example, with the Northern Corridor and the Central Corridor, we have also benefited from the East African Community Authority, which basically deals with aspect to do with fair competition among the member states, and we have also benefited from the free movement of goods. However much we still have some lapses here and there, because it's entering some member states also requires you to have, for example, especially on issues concerning professional qualifications, where there's no mutual recognition of academic documents, a visa, in order to trust to the challenges that I think personally that the EAC single market is facing, is that we are facing the persistent non-tariff barriers, as I've already cited, 8.7%. That is basically spent, that is the statistics that is spent on road user charges. Then we have that one of infrastructure, which is at 8.5%. And we also have immigration challenges that at 8.3, government policy and regulation that is at 8.7, and of course numerous documentation which is at 0.7, and the lengthy customs procedures which is at 7.5. So really that shows that we still have non-tariff barriers within the member states. Also, we still have issues to do with unharmonized policies. For example, apparently we have, according to the website of the East African Community, we have 1,918 policies that are harmonized. What happens to others? Then it means that we still have issues, especially on taxes and quality control aspects. We still also have challenges in respect to border operations. Most of them do not operate on an uniform platform. They have different procedures. We still have infrastructure deficits, which is dependent on different levels of also development of each member country. We still have a problem of sovereignty concerns and lack of political will, where member states advocate more for their national interests more than the community commitments. We have uneven economic development, and also there are still issues concerning institutional and administrative weaknesses. Most of them are tagged also on aspect to do with enforcement. Some member states face problems of finances to ensure that some of the aspects that the commitments they're supposed to do are done. We also have limited private-public engagement, and this is one of the issues that are facing, because some of the policies may not read the realities of the business that it's intended to tackle. We are also having issues to do with overlapping membership. For example, member states have different membership with the other regional blocks, like for example SADC and COMESA, and there's also an issue to do with restrictions on free movement. That aside, I was also supposed to tackle the issue concerning private sector engagement, and with this, the cornerstone of my presentation was supposed to be basically how do the private sector translate the East African Community Summit resolution into aspects to do with economic growth and job job creation. With this, there's an issue that there is need to strengthen the public-private partnership and also institutionalizing them. There's also need for continuous harmonization of laws and standards to ensure uniformity and dealing with some of the non-tariff barriers that come with it. There's also an issue to do in investing in skills and labor mobility, not forgetting the infrastructure and digital integration, and of course, increasing on the awareness and capacity building programs, especially on the vulnerable groups like women, and even now also the youth should also be engaged in such activities so that training, implementation and accountability that with the ESC summit resolutions, and this entails also engaging the public.
All right, I think. Thank you. Thank you.
Public or the public, so that they are aware of the need for access to finance business. Some enterprises okay.
All right. I think is Hamida done?
It's as if I heard you say something, and that's why I actually stopped.
All right.
I was still, yes. So those are some of the aspects that I found legitimate in as far as dealing with the aspect of how the private sector can translate and that turn over the ESC summit resolution into economic growth. So basically that, and I close up by saying that there is need to remove, to continuously remove the non-tariff barriers. With this will bring about so many benefits, and also giving access to the finances for business, especially the small medium enterprises. The loans that are normally given have high interests, and this is really a target in respect to the small medium enterprises, among others. So thank you so much for listening to me. That's my presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our time is well spent. I want to take exactly 1 minute each for each of the panelists to give us their closing remarks. We start with you, Ms. Mabel Kisaka, your closing remarks.
So my closing remarks are pretty much simple. With this summit, we got timelines within which certain things were supposed to be done, and what we need now is to finalize and implement the sanctions framework so that we have clear triggers and consequences. So if by next summit some countries have not domesticated, what are the consequences? If by July NTBs are still a going concern, what are the consequences? So I think we need now to look at the consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nadia Hamida, your closing remarks.
My closing remarks in respect to the ESC summit resolution is that there should be full implementation and enforcement, because ESC now has the policies, has all it takes to ensure that we get away with the non-tariff barriers and we lead to the economic development of the region. But the problem is the enforcement mechanism. The advocates of countries advocating for national interests other than community interests is what is leading us behind. So there is a need for the ESC to come to implement the sanctions, to ensure full enforcement, and also to engage the private sector so that the realities, the business challenges are addressed by the policies. So it should be it should be citizen-centric.
Okay, thank you very much. Citizen-centric. It should focus on the people. Mheshimiwa Okubo, take us home. Your final remarks.
Yes, I'll take you home by reading to you some quotes which I've been writing as we go along that almost summarizes this. The first one is that ESC does not suffer from lack of vision. It suffers from an implementation gap. The second one is integration must move from declarations to delivery. Then what matters now is not what we agree, but what we execute. Non-tariff barriers are a silent tax on the East African citizens. Very important. Integration must be seen and felt, not just signed and announced with pomp in some conference halls. You recall the case of those citizens who were asking, where's the common market? Because they wanted to feel it. They wanted to go and buy things from the common market because they wanted to feel it. Now, credibility comes from compliance, not just commitments.
Mhm.
If citizens don't feel integration, they will not believe in it. What gets measured gets done, and what gets published gets trusted. The future of EAC will be judged at the border posts, not in the conference rooms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Okubo. What gets published gets trusted. The future of the EAC shall not be in the boardrooms, but on implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for this 1 hour session discussing the impact of the recent summit resolutions in Arusha. We hope that we are going to implement those resolutions, much as they sound quite laudable. Implementation remains a gap. We hope that we are going to implement these resolutions and future resolutions for the future of the Jumuiya. May I thank everyone who took time to join us. We didn't have time for questions today, but certainly send those questions through to the East ELS Secretariat. We are going to engage with the panelists to respond to any pressing questions that may have remained unattended. On behalf of the ELS Council, chaired by the President, Rama Abubakar, the Vice President Salim, and the rest of the Council, thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you in the next round of webinars. Please join up whenever ELS calls you to join these webinars. Join up. Let's make the unity, the East African community perfect. Over to you, Gabriel Achai.
Wow, what a way to bring it to a close. Thank you so much, Mwalimu. That was succinct, short, and sweet. Thank you so much. It's been quite interesting, mind-blowing, and we've been taking down some notes from the Secretariat on how we could propel this conversation forward. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Secretariat, we would like to thank you, our esteemed panelists, Your Worship, Euphnalis Okubo. Thank you so much for making time amidst your very busy schedule today to be a part of us. Thank you so much, Madam Mabel Kisaka, for setting aside time and giving us your wisdom today. And to you, Madam Nagadia Hamida, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for making time and sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us today. We are entirely grateful to your participants who have been part of this session. Please note that a recording will be shared with you at the tail end of this particular segment. Now, friends, as we move forward into the month of April, we have lined up quite a number of enticing capacity building sessions for you. So please make sure that you are a part of those. On the 9th of April 2026, we'll be discussing banking on innovation, and we'll be looking at legal strategies for East Africa's fintech boom and digital finance resolution. So we have an esteemed panel that comprises of industry players and seasoned practitioners in the field of banking and finance that will be sharing their thoughts with us. That's on the 9th of April. So be on the lookout for that session. Please register for it. Also, by way of reminder, our Mastering AI Masterclass will be happening in Nairobi on the 7th and the 8th of May 2026. So please, if you've not registered for that session, please visit our website or write to us at info@ELOsociety.org. and be a part of those sessions. So from us to you, we wish you a very, very blessed week ahead. It's a holy week for our Christian friends that have been in the Lent period. So we wish you a very blessed week ahead, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and the Easter holidays. So please share the love and spread the resurrection message across board. And please feel free to invite a friend for lunch. You can always feel free to share and spread the love. So thank you so much, and have yourselves a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.